Everybody, this is Bo back in the lounge. We're going to head all the way out to Eastern Michigan University, talk a little wrestling with Coach DelPorto. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing?
Good, Coach. Listen, you've taken over that program. You're going to obviously do some new things to get that thing going right, but I think the more incredible story is what's going on at Slippery Rock and what you did there. I'm surprised Walt Disney hasn't knocked down the door to ask for your memoirs.
Well, I don't know about that. If it was a Walt Disney story, there'd be a happy ending, right?
Actually, no. A lot of them actually have emotional endings. That story there with the success you had as you closed up shop on the long history of Slippery Rock and the champions and All-Americans that you had was such a great story.
Yeah, no, it was. It's something that when I was at Cornell, I got a phone call from a couple of our alumni when I was the assistant wrestling coach at Cornell at the time, going into my third year, and I got a couple phone calls from some alumni who. We always knew that wrestling at Slippery Rock was traditionally a great sport. We had some individual success here and there. We had some conference success, but outside of that, on the national level, we haven't found that success since Fred Powell was coaching, and we were getting national champs and college All-Americans. But when they gave me a call, and they're kind of saying, "Hey, Ports, man, we need you to get back there and try to do something to save this program." So. I actually applied and interviewed for that job right out of college and did not get it. And so I kind of was a little sour about that the first time, but then when I went back the second time, I knew that I was just needed. I needed to go in there and try to save the program. So actually in my interview, the very first question that I asked was, what's the sustainability of the program? Tell me what I have to do to make sure that this program's never on the chopping block. And our athletic coach there literally gave me a list, a criteria list. I'm not kidding. They said they were looking at 10 sports, and they're going to reevaluate the sustainability of 10 sports, and wrestling was being one of them. And I said, okay, well, tell me the measurements that you're going to use in order to judge if it's sustainable or not. Gave me this list of criteria, and long story short, we knocked it out of the box. I mean, it wasn't even close. We met and exceeded every criteria that was listed for us. And then, in our meeting when he called me in January, it was a 15-minute meeting with me, the athletic director, the vice president of the school, and a couple of the coaches who are representing the coaching council there. And it was a 15-minute meeting telling me that we haven't done enough. So I backed it up. I was prepared. I said, okay, tell me why we didn't do enough. We did this, and this. And then all of a sudden they said, well, it's a financial thing. And so I called their bluff again. We had a guy that was willing and able and definitely ready to write a check for whatever they wanted to say to us. They came back. They told me that we had to raise $5 million by July 1st. Now, granted, this meeting is January 30th. All right. So, in order to call their bluff, I said, "Not a problem. You guys ready to do it when you want the check?" And they're like, "Well, wait a second, coach. There might be some Title IX issues that we have to." And I said, "Okay, just tell me what it is. Quit beating around the bush. Shoot me straight. Tell me the real reason why wrestling's getting dropped at Slippery Rock." And then their final verdict was Title IX. So, it was just one of those things where it just. You're told one thing, you did it, you accomplished it. Like I said, I keep saying it, man. We knocked it out of the box, and we still got dropped. And you can't fight Title IX. It is what it is. We were non-compliant, and unfortunately, the way the athletic directors and some institutions are deciding and so making their solution to the Title IX non-compliancy is just to eliminate a men's sport. And for some reason, wrestling is always on the chopping block. I just don't know why there. I mean, dropping a wrestling program in the state of Pennsylvania is like treason. You're just not allowed to do that. And, that's what they did.
Coach, that does sound like a big story where you've accomplished everything beyond anything they could put together. I bet you if you had 10 girls out of your school that wanted to wrestle, they would still close it up. There's many programs like Lock Haven University actually has a very successful women's program in Canada. They've got a lot of successful women wrestling, but it just seemed like they had it in their minds to close the program no matter what. And that's truly a travesty because you accomplished so much in your short period of time there.
Yeah, and all these accomplishments I'm talking about weren't really even on the wrestling side of things. You know, the wins and the losses are one thing, but I don't think that program was ever geared toward being a successful win-loss program. It was the other things, the academic side of stuff, the fundraising, the self-sustainability of alumni involvement. I mean, we just did everything right. And, you know, to boot, we did win. You know, that last year when we were about to get dropped, sorry about that little windy, that last year when we were about to get dropped, we ended up wrestling Bloomsburg and the University of Buffalo to end the season. Bloomsburg at the time was ranked 22nd and Buffalo was ranked 25th, and we beat them both. And I'll tell you what we did that with. We did that with 7 walk-ons out of the 10 guys in our starting lineup. So we were doing the right things. And that's with one coach. You know, I mean, it's crazy that we did that, but yeah, you know, we did everything right, and it's just too bad. It just kind of pulled the rug right underneath my feet, and now my focus is on making this program better at Eastern. You know, I've taken that passion, I've taken that energy that I got from Slippery Rock and that program, getting kind of pulled out from underneath me, and I'm putting that same passion toward Eastern Michigan, and hopefully the results are showing that. And you know, I got a good coaching staff that has the same passion, so we're going to keep it going, I hope.
Well, you came under a very good program in Cornell. Coach Cole is a bulldog, to say the very least, and it looks like you're going to have some competition because Doug Jesse's down at Tiffin University to do a brand-new program down there.
Yeah, you know, Doug wrestled at Cornell when I was there coaching. So I know Doug pretty well. You know, the wrestling community is a very small world, so everybody knows everybody. I could beat Doug Jesse in a wrestling match, though.
You know what? I saw a picture of you, and you look kind of like you look like Fedor if Fedor had no hair.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm slightly bigger than Doug Jesse. He wrestled 125. I wrestled heavyweight, but you know, I thought Doug was doing a pretty decent job with what he had up at Wagner, and that was just a ridiculously tough situation for him. He did what he could. He got as many wrestlers as he could to go to Wagner, and you know, it's just one of those things where, I don't know, the athletic department, the athletic director, and the president, they have to make a decision, and if they can save a few bucks here and there, they'll find a way to get rid of something. You know, and that's too bad. And I think there's a lot of people out there, the National Wrestling Coaches Association, the College Sports Council, that are doing a lot of really neat things to support the fairness of not only Title IX, but just you know, proportionality issues that are involved with Title IX. But opportunities for people and sustainability of program. I know I keep saying sustainability of program, and there's so much that goes into that. And I don't think you have enough time on your radio show for me to get into that. But no, I hope that Doug does well, and like I said, I hope that everybody in the state of Michigan does well.
Well, you know, Coach, I think you brought up a couple points. Is why we bring this up, is that there wasn't an avenue for wrestlers to really showcase their talents once they finished. Obviously, you had the Olympics. You could go into the coaching ranks. But this new thing called MMA that's been around for 30 years has ultimately taken off significantly for wrestlers. A lot of smaller programs are seeing growths in the ranks. High school students are now trying to sign up to figure this thing out. You've got boxers now enrolling in college classes just so they can learn how to do ground and pound. The best fighters in the professional ranks are the ex-wrestlers, and that's got to feel kind of good that your program is now having some of the lights. There is now college coaches across the way that are endorsing professional, even amateur fights in their universities to help promote sales and visibilities in their programs. It's got to feel pretty good from your standpoint.
Yeah, it does. You know, we actually, at this convention that we had this past weekend, we talked about the strength of MMA and what it's done for the sport of wrestling. And the one thing that I want to make sure that everybody knows, and a lot of coaches agree with me on this, is that we don't want, you know, the violence side of MMA reflecting on what wrestlers are, because I think just from an outside point of view looking in on that, people think that's just a fist fight. You know, may the best guy win. But there is so much technique that goes into some of that stuff that a lot of people don't know, and that's how wrestling will tie into that. So if you come to a wrestling match, you'll see a lot of the same things you'll see in those MMA fights, just without the submission and the boxing part. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is exciting. What it does for wrestling, I think the biggest and the most important thing it does for wrestling is exactly what you said, the visibility of stuff. You know, now they're looking at, we're talking about millions of people are watching UFC and MMA, and they're thinking, man, where are these guys coming from? Oh, they're coming from Division I wrestling. They're coming from college wrestling. Maybe we ought to go watch a college wrestling match. And so, you know, you're right, the visibility is great for us. I'm glad that it's a part of that. I'm glad it took off. Good buddies that are involved in that. So, hopefully one day it'll take off and people will